So I'm in Miami. Beach. I'm in Miami for the Tech Beach conference, and it's day 2 or maybe it's day 3 because I came in on Wednesday and right now it's Friday. But what is time? Really, what is time? So I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of my experience over the last 2.5 days. So I came in from Mexico and that was about 3 hours. And the arrival at the hotel was quite interesting because they seemed to be very busy. At the same time, yeah, it was just a very odd interaction because the reception wasn't the most pleasant, and apparently they were going through something, and then the woman in the next door, she was like, oh, can you please see to her? Anyways, so I got into my room. I'm really happy with my room. The reason I chose to take the Tech Beach package, although I have family who live in Miami, it would have been more expensive for me to take the Uber back and forth. Exhausting, time consuming, traffic, I just can't, versus the package included food as well. So that was the ideal situation for me. So in terms of communication, Tech Beach needs a little bit room of improvement. I was trying to make plans with my aunt and I was like, wait, let me just check the agenda. And a lot of the things, which is how I work, is just personally for me, I prefer you to send me a calendar request because I live my life around a calendar, which I imagine a lot of people do. It would have been great to have that as something that came to me a few days before because I couldn't really make some plans for, you know, to see my aunt, whatever. But in the end, I saw her, so that was nice, her and my uncle. So I reached to the cocktail area, and if you don't know who I am and how my stomach works, it's extremely important for me to eat. So when I realized the cocktails were just that, I ordered food and basically attracted humans as they came to the bar because, you know, I can only be pleasant when I have food in my stomach. It's not my fault, it's hereditary, okay? So I managed to meet someone from Egypt. That was pretty cool. He lives in Miami, but he has a really cool app slash, no, it's not an app actually. It's access to data, so you pay for that data, but it's very specific to MasterCard and Visa. So that was a very cool meeting, as well as I met someone who is in the medical field and came to be inspired because they felt like they were stuck in this space and they wanted to expand. But a very interesting conversation around how they viewed their marketing, because they pay someone on average like about 800 US a month, and it's specific to 2 posts a week. I am so going to do a blog as to why that is wrong. Sorry, not wrong. Why that's ineffective, but I was very, very happy with the feedback and the conversation. So I get to understand how people make decisions, because as an industry expert, you tend to get wrapped up in the space and you're like, well, it's obvious, but clearly it isn't because mama needs new clients. So that was interesting. So that individual was a great first meet. I shared a lot of things that they should start doing in terms of personal branding. You know, we'll see how that shows up. I ended up meeting a lot of people from Trinidad, some people from the industry who've started their own agencies, and I smile because I had a conversation with a Mexican a couple weeks ago about Starbucks agencies, you know, agencies that work out of a Starbucks, and I started off as a hustler. I'm a hustler, baby. It's just so interesting to be in the space where folks are getting opportunities based on the connections, not in their work, and that's not going to change. But it was definitely interesting for me to be exposed to that, because moving on to Trinidad has been a year now. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, this happens. Okay, remind us to why I left. Anyways, so fast forward to the next day, because I have work actually going on, I'm really disappointed that I missed a lot of the stuff. But after work, you know, I had a live stream for one of my clients. I had to go to the bank here, which is very close by. So by the time I got to the first speaker, it was like lunchtime. But I want to step back for a bit and talk about the breakfast. which it was like an English muffin, some eggs, and everything had cheese in it. So thankfully I walked with my tablets, which I keep forgetting, but that has been an issue for me in terms of dietary. I wish that that was something that was part of the registration process. I honestly do not remember seeing it, and as someone in the communication space, you tend to want to remind people of these things. Once I pay an organization for something that they're providing for me, my hope is that they're sending me an email so I can have easy access to whatever's out there and the opportunities that are given. That to me was definitely room for improvement for this event. So when I was looking for breakfast before my live stream, needless to say, sorely disappointed. Sourly disappointed. Anyways, definitely made up for it for lunch. Lunch was amazing, and that is truly where I get to meet a lot of people. I met someone who works at Airbnb. I met someone in the health industry. Like, a lot of truly great impact happened while eating and trying to block, because you know when you're eating and you're like, yeah. So what I do is it's not pretty, but it's effective. So yeah, it helped being an extrovert in that space. And I really do have an opinion on when it comes to these types of networking events. I think as someone who have been on both sides as an attendee and someone who has hosted events, you really have to facilitate a space that allows extroverts and introverts to succeed, because what happened in these events is exactly what has happened in my personal life, which I attract introverts who then, because of my nature, I speak on their behalf because it's just who I am. So, you know, a lot of introverts kind of stuck with me, and I'm like, hey, did you meet? And then they end up having, you know, an additional circle or expanding their network because I was actively involved in, you know, introducing them. I actually do like doing it. It's fun. I don't necessarily get a chance to push myself as much because I automatically like, oh my God, this person's an introvert, let me help them out. So it'd be nice if event organizers see that gap in events and do something to connect those dots. You can create a form for that. Like, everything you can create a form for it. You can figure out if someone, this is the equivalent of asking someone, you know, back in the day, you didn't have to pay for the emergency seat because you were asked if you're okay with taking the emergency seat. So you can ask the extroverts, are you okay with finding an introvert partner and networking together? You're gonna get that idea for free. No mas, no more. Anyways, after lunch, I don't know, I don't mean to be controversial. I just think that after so long in the business world, in my industry, I just feel bored by the content that is being presented. Because ultimately, I could have all the passion in the world, but if I don't have the network and access like Mark Zuckerberg did to be able to have Facebook run for 3 years without profit, like, all these things don't make a difference. So that's a huge issue for me, because the people who have money will continue to have money, and as humans, we are by nature biased. How are you gonna tell someone who looks a specific way, don't give money to someone who looks like you? Like, that's ultimately what we're trying to do when we talk about diversifying the space, and that's a difficult, somewhat controversial conversation to have, but that's the only way change is gonna happen. So when I see these people go up on stage and I'm just like, anyways, I got to meet some cool people. Some people will actually currently work in LinkedIn, which I know you guys know. That's my child. That's how I make my living. So that was really cool. And I got invited to a special founders dinner. That was interesting for so many reasons, but I'm gonna keep that for a later thing, or maybe, you know, a blog or something. But by 9-10, I was gone. I was like, no, this has been great, guys. As much as I'm an extrovert, I'm exhausted. But I did manage to increase my LinkedIn network, and you just never know what's gonna come out of that. So the next day, I knew I had to get up pretty early because there was a breakfast that started at 7:45. I set my alarm really good with great intentions, but then I was like, hey Siri, turn off the alarm.
I turned off your alarms.
Yeah, you see what I mean? So if I don't have to get up to do that, then of course I'm gonna, you know, oversleep. So I pretty much overslept. And something happened that I'm also gonna blog about. This event was initially for women, and when I walked in and someone who's part of the Tech Beach was like, yeah, we no longer have it just for women, we have everybody in it. And I thought about inequality. So I was like, this is such a great parallel for inequality and privilege. There's certain things that would be a privilege, like I didn't choose these brown eyes. At the same time, when I want to pursue something, I don't have access to the community and network that someone would have had going to college, because I did not get to go to college. I didn't have that choice. So when it comes to this conversation around privilege and inequality, similar to the fact that I was so exhausted, technically I came from a different time zone. I know it's just 2 hours, but then 2 hours was rough, because technically it was 6 a.m. in Mexico City, but really it was 8 a.m. in Miami, and I was like, it's almost like death by small cuts, where you keep trying to push forward in your life, but the reality is you're born into a space that made you have to start all the way in the back. You sent me an invitation to a female empowering breakfast, but everybody got access to something that I was technically supposed to be the first one to get. So in terms of privilege and the conversation around inequality, so many times things aren't made for people who look like me and sound like me. If you're still with me, it means that you understand this conversation, because this is why you have women-only associations, Black women associations, Latin women association, like why you have Black Heritage Month, why you have Latin American Heritage Month, because these particular groups have it a bit harder. Systemically, data-wise, they have it a bit harder. So it is important for organizations to give people who have it a bit harder an opportunity to access that. So that was pretty interesting. I was slightly disappointed, but it influenced this conversation, which I'm definitely going to write a blog on. And I still managed to meet amazing people. You know, I sat down at different tables, so I was able to connect with people. I was able to talk about my cat, so important. But then again, I missed the first discussion, had to run upstairs, make sure I get ready because I wasn't really ready, ran back downstairs, and I was able to catch the panel discussion.